Yeah, but I'm officially 3 for 3 on being fined by the WNBA.
Holy shit. For this? For the pod? Again?
They didn't like my comments on Paige Becker's.
No way.
I didn't even say anything bad.
A storm is brewing in the WNBA, and it threatens to tear the league apart from the inside. A single player has decided to break the unspoken code of silence, and in doing so, she has exposed a deeply flawed system that seems determined to crush any voice that doesn't follow the company line. What started as honest commentary has spiraled into a full-blown crisis, revealing an organization in a state of panic, willing to financially punish its own stars to maintain an illusion of control. The voices of discontent are getting louder, the frustration is reaching a boiling point, and the unthinkable is now being openly discussed. Is the WNBA intentionally trying to silence one of its brightest stars into submission?
She spoke about the league, but more importantly, she stated she got another fine for actually talking about Paige Beckers. Now, we all ultimately know what happened last time. She had her podcast. She let it be known that Paige Beckers got that blue blood whistle, bro. And make a long story short, she stated the WNBA fined her for that. And she spoke about Bree Hartley. She also talked about Caitlin Clark rehab. But guys, it's unfortunate that she will be out for the remainder.
It began as whispers on social media, but now it has erupted into a roar that the WNBA can no longer ignore. Fans are demanding that Sophie Cunningham be allowed to speak her mind without fear of retaliation. They see the league's actions not as standard procedure, but as a deliberate campaign of censorship. This is no longer just a sports story, it's about the fundamental right to speak freely, and fans are making it clear that if the league continues to silence its players, it may lose its audience altogether. The sentiment is spreading like wildfire, with countless comments declaring, "Sophie, keep calling out their nonsense," flooding every platform.
So lads, the WNBA have done it. They have done it. They have officially fined Sophie Cunningham every podcast episode. They have fined her because Sophie Cunningham has been fined. I'm not joking. She's been fined for a TikTok. She's been fined now, I think, for the third time for a podcast. I think Sophie Cunningham might be the all-time leader in fines in the WNBA. So let's take a listen.
Sophie Cunningham, the fiery guard for the Phoenix Mercury, never set out to be a rebel. She launched her podcast, Show Me Something, to connect with fans and offer an authentic look inside the world of women's basketball. But she quickly discovered that in the WNBA, authenticity comes at a steep price. Instead of being celebrated for her engaging and honest perspective, she became a target, turning into the unlikely face of a movement against the league's iron-fisted control. She has become the voice of truth in a league that seems terrified of it.
They are not protecting their players. Nobody's going to watch this if you're not protecting your star player. You're not protecting your players, period. But particularly your star players. No one's going to watch this. People are watching it because of Caitlin Clark, and then even more because of Sophie Cunningham. And if you're going to just hang them out to dry, then, good. Nobody's going to watch this anymore because they don't protect their players. It's a worthless organization. They have no idea how to protect their players. But, oh man, they're going to bitch and moan. Well, you better pay us the money. For what? You can't even protect your star players that draw the eyeballs. Now nobody's watching. Nobody's going to watch to see the star players sitting out with injuries because of poor treatment and poor officiating on the sides. Nobody's going to watch that.
The tipping point came during a recent episode of her podcast where Cunningham made a stunning confession that sent shockwaves through the league. "I'm officially 3 for 3 on being fined by the WNBA," she announced, her voice dripping with the frustration of someone who has watched an organization prioritize control over honesty. She revealed that her latest fine was for simply noting that rookie phenom Paige Beckers seemed to get favorable calls from referees. It was a basic observation that fans and analysts make every single day, but for the league, it was a line crossed, and it was the final piece of evidence that proved this was a systematic campaign to shut her up.
She has turned herself into a top 5 most talked about player in the WNBA. And can I tell you, I am loving the clips that are coming out of this podcast. There's just so much fascinating elements of her that make her this really alpha, really strong, but really beautiful, spicy villain. And I think she kind of likes being the villain.
What happened next was a digital explosion. Within hours of her revelation, social media was flooded with messages of support for Cunningham. Hashtags demanding the league stop finding Sophie went viral as fans rallied around their new truth teller. They weren't just defending a player, they were fighting back against what they saw as a corrupt and dishonest organization that had completely lost sight of what free speech means. The WNBA had intended to make an example out of Cunningham, but instead, they accidentally turned her into a martyr and a hero for a generation of fans desperate for honesty.
I'm officially 3 for 3 on being fined by the WNBA.
Holy shit. For this? For the pod? Again?
They didn't like my comments on Paige Becker's.
No way.
I didn't even say anything bad.
On the whistle, on the quick whistle.
Yeah, but like, why? Like,
If we want to talk about Paige, here's a good question.
They fined her for saying Paige Beckers has a good whistle. Like, I kid you not, that is one of the craziest reasons I've seen a player get fined.
When you look at what Sophie Cunningham was actually fined for, the league's reaction becomes even more baffling and absurd. She was hit with a $500 penalty for a TikTok video where she simply lip-synced lyrics that mentioned referees. She was fined another $1,500 for questioning officiating consistency on her first podcast episode. These aren't inflammatory attacks, they're the kind of mild commentary that is completely routine in every other major sports league. The WNBA has essentially created a system where honest, basic observations about their product result in financial punishment, regardless of accuracy or intent.
There is something seriously wrong with how the W enforces their rules. And I know there's already been a big emphasis on referee inconsistencies, but at the end of the day, the quality of referees is on the WNBA too. Because again, I have no idea where the line is. Because on one hand, I kind of get it. It's normal for a league to fine you if you're going to talk bad about the league or the players in the league. Because that happens all the time in the NBA, NFL, and so on. But on the other hand, why does the league not care about its image when players are standing over and cursing out their opponents on the court? Like, where was the enforcement here? Or where was it here? Or where was it when the whole entire league was bullying your star player? And this stuff is happening all the time in the WNBA, but why is it only called on occasion? Which is why finding Sophie Cunningham every time she has a podcast seems kind of crazy, because the WNBA obviously chooses when and when not to enforce the rules.
So how does the league justify these ridiculous penalties? They hide behind vague, catch-all phrases in their rulebook, pointing to policies against public criticism of officials or conduct detrimental to the league. These are bureaucratic shields designed to give them the power to punish anyone for anything they don't like. Instead of addressing the legitimate concerns Cunningham raises about officiating or consistency, they've chosen to implement what amounts to a financial gag order. It's a cowardly response that shows they are more interested in silencing dissent than actually improving their product.
Do they, when you get fined, do they put like verbatim, like quote here, like this is why you're being fined and this is why it's this much? Or is it like, hey, quit talking shit on us, Venmo us like $1,500?
No. What happens is they email our GM, and she pulls me aside and she goes, "Come here, Soph, I have to talk to you." And this was in like front of everybody. And I was like, "What did I do now?" And she just smiled and she goes, "Hey, they're going to fine you again." They're like, I was like, I even told them, I even credited them that their job was hard. I did say that. And I said that I would not be good at it. I did say that. Like, look at the whole picture. What are we doing?
But there's a deeper reason for the league's paranoia, and it has everything to do with Caitlin Clark. With the arrival of a new generation of superstars, the WNBA is experiencing unprecedented attention, and the league office is terrified of any narrative that suggests imperfection. They want to project a flawless image to their new audience, and Cunningham's honest critiques threaten that fragile illusion. Her words reveal everything wrong with how the WNBA operates, and the league is panicking because millions of new fans are now watching their every move.
Cunningham tweeted about getting fined, basically saying that she thinks it's laughable and that the league probably has bigger issues they should be focusing on. Now, WNBA officiating has faced major scrutiny all season long from some of the league's biggest stars and coaches. You can find a ton of articles about it online where they're all calling for more consistency. One of the more quotable examples came from Angel Reese after the Chicago Sky lost to the Minnesota Lynx on July 6th. Reese said that the officiating has to be fixed. She said, "I don't give a you-know-what if I get fined because that stuff is cheap and I'm tired of this stuff." You get the point. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert addressed the officiating ahead of the All-Star game last weekend. She said that it is something that the league is continuing to work on and that they are on it. Engelbert mentioned that they spent
This paranoia has exposed a shocking double standard that exists within the WNBA's own ecosystem. While Sophie Cunningham is fined thousands for mild observations, media personalities and former players like Rebecca Lobo are free to offer the exact same critiques, often in much harsher terms, without any consequences. Lobo herself has acknowledged the real issues with officiating, yet when a current player voices similar concerns, she faces immediate financial retaliation. This proves the league isn't protecting its referees, it's controlling its employees, creating a clear hierarchy where players are expected to stay silent while commentators drive the narrative.
She'll happily pay those fines. I think they're only fining like $200 or something. It's something crazy. Like Sophie Cunningham is making millions this year. Players don't get fined for speaking on one another, but every single player in the history of pro basketball has criticized officiating and fined for it. No, she keeps doing the same thing, getting fined for it. She literally said Paige is a good whistle. That is what she said. She said Paige. Oh, the Paige fans. My God, Paige fans are fucking nut jobs.
Faced with this relentless pressure campaign, Sophie Cunningham has refused to back down. Instead, she has doubled down on her defiance, understanding that this is a battle for her voice. "You finding me $500 is not going to do shit," she declared on her podcast, making it crystal clear that she will not be intimidated into silence. She understands the league's strategy is to bleed her dry financially until she submits, but her public declaration was a powerful statement that she is willing to pay the price for transparency, a price the league hopes is too high for any player to bear.
She literally, when I tell you, y'all, I literally feel like they are just coming for her, because I feel like she should be able to say what she wants to say on her podcast. But that's just me. That's just how I feel. Then they came and then it came an earlier $500 penalty. I guess for a TikTok video, she was mocking the referees and lip singing. That was funny. So now I got a question for y'all. Do you think that she should be able to say what she wants on her own podcast? Or do you feel like, she should just shut it down and, stop bothering them with all this and that?
This isn't just a financial battle. It's a calculated campaign of psychological warfare. The constant threat of fines creates an environment of anxiety and self-censorship. Every time Cunningham sits down to record her podcast, she has to wonder if an innocent observation or a simple opinion will cost her thousands of dollars. It's a tactic designed to wear her down, to make speaking honestly so mentally and financially exhausting that she simply gives up. The league is trying to break her spirit, but they've severely underestimated her resolve.
The amount of traction that episode was getting, folks were saying that she could pay that off just from her YouTube monetization. And so this is just interesting, because I've said before that I really wish the WNBA as well as other sports leagues would lean in to the athlete-owned media platforms, because fans are a lot more interested in hearing the perspective of people who actually play the sport than just spectators and people on the outside. So the fact that they are penalizing her for showcasing her frustrations, even though tons of players have done this, post-game interviews or just talked about it on the internet in general, is very interesting.
From a business perspective, the WNBA's handling of this situation is a complete and utter disaster. Sophie Cunningham has organically grown into one of the most compelling and marketable personalities in the league. Her podcast generates massive engagement and offers the kind of authentic behind-the-scenes content that fans crave. Any other league would see this as a goldmine. Instead of embracing this free marketing machine, the WNBA has chosen to wage war against it, creating a public relations nightmare that makes them look petty, controlling, and hopelessly out of touch. They have completely lost the plot. The stark contrast between the WNBA's approach and that of other professional sports leagues is staggering. In the NBA, superstars like LeBron James and Draymond Green publicly criticize officiating on a regular basis. While they might get fined, the amounts are a tiny fraction of their massive salaries, and their comments are often far more aggressive than anything Cunningham has said. In the WNBA, a player can be financially crippled for observations that wouldn't even raise an eyebrow in the NBA, revealing a league that treats its players not as partners, but as subjects to be ruled.
So the entire league can talk shit about Caitlyn, but Sophie can't talk shit to Paige. No. And that's the funniest thing, is that Angel Reese can say some people have a special whistle about Caitlin Clark in a public press conference, and it's selective fining. That's the problem. Like, Kelsey Plum has not been fined this year, and Kelsey Plum has literally just stopped entire press conferences to complain about the referees. Apparently Stephanie White didn't get fined when Marina Mabrey knocked Caitlin on her ass, and then Sophie Cunningham took down JC Sheldon. Apparently Stephanie White didn't get, and Mazian did not get fined for both of them going mad at the referees.
The most damaging consequence of this entire saga isn't the fines themselves, but the chilling effect it has on other players across the league. Sources from around the WNBA have indicated that many players share Cunningham's frustrations with officiating in other league operations, but they are too afraid to speak up. They've seen what happens to those who challenge the front office, and they can't afford to become the next target. The WNBA hasn't just fined one player, it has cultivated a league-wide culture of fear where honesty is a liability. The league is now rapidly approaching a point of no return. Every new fine levied against Cunningham only strengthens her support among fans and makes the WNBA look more tyrannical. The pattern of punishment has become so predictable that it's clear the league is more focused on controlling its message than addressing the legitimate issues she's raising. They are caught in a trap of their own making, and their desperate attempt to silence their most authentic voice is threatening to backfire in a way that could permanently damage their brand.
Only is going to push her even more to share her perspectives and share her point of view. And that's going to get her some partnerships. That's going to get her business opportunities, because again, nobody really knows what these players go through unless you're in their position. Unless you're in that position. For those who don't know, she plays for the Indiana Fever. But I love that she is voicing her concerns. I think the only way for change to happen is for you to vocalize what needs to be changed and to have it at the forefront. And she just may be the person to help further push these types of conversations ahead. So listen, let's all support Sophia, watch the first episode. And I'm excited to see what else she's talking about, because
This entire crisis lands directly at the feet of WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert. She is facing a critical test of her leadership. Will she recognize that the modern sports landscape thrives on authenticity and player-driven content, or will she continue to lead with an iron fist, clinging to an outdated model of absolute control? The league is sitting on a goldmine of genuine personalities, but its leadership seems intent on burying it. Her legacy and the future reputation of the WNBA may hinge on how she handles this escalating war on free speech. Ultimately, this is a war the WNBA cannot win. They are battling the very concept of authenticity in an era where fans demand it more than ever. The tragic irony is that the league had everything it could have asked for in Sophie Cunningham's podcast: an engaging voice, real fan interest, and meaningful discussion about their product. Instead of supporting this organic connection, they chose to treat it as a threat to be managed through financial punishment. The choice they're making speaks volumes about their priorities, and fans are taking notice of a league that seems to fear its own players more than it values them.